Note thou carefully that in this world of being, all things must ever be made new. Look at the material world about thee. See how it hath now been renewed. The thoughts have changed, the ways of life have been revised, the sciences and arts show a new vigor, discoveries and inventions are new, perceptions are new. Abdul Baha. The world's equilibrium hath been upset through the vibrating influence of this most great, this new world order. Mankind's ordered life hath been revolutionized through the agency of this unique, this wondrous system, the like of which mortal eyes have never witnessed. Baha'u'llah. Soon will the present day order be rolled up, and a new one spread out in its stead. Baha'u'llah.
Thank you. So today we're really happy to have Dr. Haideh Sabet, and her topic is Change, the One Thing We Can Depend On, Insights from the Baha'i Writings. Dr. Haideh Sabet is a neurologist in private practice in Alexandria, Virginia, and an associate professor of neurology at Georgetown University Medical Center. She graduated from Cornell University with a distinction with a BA in the biological sciences and completed her medical school at the Mayo Clinic. She then attended Georgetown University Medical Center for her internship and neurology residency and helped establish and completed the first accredited neurophysiology fellowship program there. She's a member of the Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of Fairfax County East and lives in Alexandria with her husband and son. So with that, I'm happy to hand it off to Dr. Sabet.
Thank you so much, Payman and June, and thank you everyone for joining us on this beautiful day. At least that's beautiful here. I hope it's beautiful in your area as well. I'd like to thank the hosts of this gathering for offering this sacred space to us. It's an oasis, really, where we get to pause from the noise of daily life and really reflect on spiritual realities. And too often, our busy lives just tend to push aside some of the most vital conversations that we can have, the ones that help to remind us of who we are, why are we here, and how are we connected to each other. We live in a world that's constantly changing. Some of these changes seem to tear us apart. They sow the seeds of division and distrust, and others just press us together and in very unexpected ways, reminding us of our shared humanity. And so the question before us is not whether change will happen, because it always does, but how we can respond to it. And so I'd like to take a step back, and for those of us who may not be as familiar with the Baha'i Faith, just give a brief history and introduction, because that's where many of the quotes are coming from today. So the Baha'i Faith is one of the world's youngest independent religions. It arose in the mid-19th century in Persia, which is otherwise known as Iran now, a time of great turmoil and expectation. And there is still, to this day, great turmoil and expectation in that blessed country of Iran that was the origin of this new world religion. In 1844, a man by the name of the Bab, whose name means the gate, announced that humanity was entering a new spiritual age. And so he prepared the hearts of the people of the time for the coming of the one whom God shall make manifest. And this was the title that he gave that individual. And he wrote profusely throughout a very short lifetime. He was only 31 when the government of Iran executed him in a public square with over 10,000 people witness to this. The government hoping that this would extinguish the flame that had been ignited in the hearts of the people of the time. And little did they know that only helped to fan the flames further and further away from the country of Iran, instantly sending it to England, for example, which is where some of the members who were witness to this horrific event They were from the government of England. And then beyond that, even to the United States, it was announced in one of the newspapers shortly after his execution. So instead of keeping it confined into the country, they only helped to propel it further, which is also a reflection of how sudden change that can be horrifying can also create new avenues of hope, new avenues of peace that were completely unexpected. And from these tens of thousands of individuals who, and then hundreds of thousands, in fact, many historians feel that it was up to about 1 million followers of the Bab at one point in the country of Iran who were under severe persecution, which, by the way, the Baha'is in Iran are still under that persecution. There was one man who became just in love with the Bab and his teachings from a very noble family in the government of Iran. And it was hoped that at one point he would take over the affairs of his father, who was in a very high position in Iran, but yet he himself became a Babi, or a follower of the Bab. His name was Mirza Hussein Ali. And it was because of his devotion to this new messenger of God who had made this announcement at the mere age of 25, yet penned over 27 volumes in his handwriting and the handwriting of the secretaries in a jail cell that was moved from place to place. This was the life of the Bab from the time of that declaration until his execution. Mirza Hussein Ali became enthralled in these teachings, these new teachings that had come from the Bab. And so he also became a follower and eventually was imprisoned in a dungeon called the Black Pit in the city of Tehran. And it was there for 4 months that he lay with a chain around his neck that was over 100 pounds, that Baha'is now, when we go to visit the shrines in Israel, we can see a replica of the length, 2 lengths of that chain. But that was weighing around his neck for those 4 months, the scars of which he would bear for the rest of his life. And he eventually was banished and exiled from his homeland with his family and a few other followers of the Bab. But in a beautiful rose garden in Baghdad, Iraq, which was a place of exile for him under the Ottoman Empire. 19 years after the Bab had made his declaration in 1844, Mirza Hussein Ali now declared that he was the one whom the Bab had foretold the coming of. And his Baha'u'llah is, he established that his name was now Baha'u'llah, meaning the glory of God. And it is for each of us to evaluate and investigate for ourselves the verity of his new, incredible, and soul-stirring message. So if you go to Baha'i.org, you can find his writings. He penned over 100 volumes in his lifetime. He has beautiful prayers and that we can all read, because now one of the principles that he established, that there is no need for intervention between us and God. We can independently search after truth for ourselves. And so this is a very important message that he proclaimed. That connection that we have is an individual one and cannot be intervened by any other person. He helped to create an incredible blueprint for the whole of humanity that can help move us towards building that kingdom of God on earth that was prophesied in the Lord's Prayer by Christ himself, stating, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." This is the mission of the Baha'i Faith, to bring that kingdom of God on earth in a most profound way of cementing hearts together, not by force, but by pure words, by the power of words. Baha'u'llah revealed a vision of unity, peace, and justice for the whole earth. He said, "Every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God is endowed with such a potency as can instill new life into every human frame." The Baha'i Faith emphasizes that God has never left humanity. From age to age, through messengers such as Baha'u'llah, like Moses, Abraham, Christ, Muhammad, the Buddha, Krishna, the Bab, divine guidance has been revealed to meet the needs of the time and has helped to propel humanity forward. And that this progressive revelation will continue throughout the existence of humankind. So some of the principles of the faith within that blueprint of humanity is the recognition of the oneness of God, the recognition of the oneness of humanity, and the recognition of the oneness of religion. The elimination of prejudices of all kinds, the harmony of science and religion, the equality of women and men. Mind you, this was stated way back around 1863. In fact, in a Baha'i family, if a family has a girl and a boy, and they only have money to educate one child, they should educate the daughter first, because she is the mother of the next generation. And we see this now time and time again in socioeconomic endeavors throughout the world, how the concentration on the education of women and girls is helping to propel those societies forward. So what is the constant across all of humanity's existence? It is change. Even the revelation of God itself is progressive. It unfolds gradually. It starts with turning from page to page. As we start in our infancy in humankind, we had guidance then. We may not have a recorded record of it, but God would not leave humanity alone, just as we see in the story of Adam and Eve. He was there. And so from the instant we take our first breath, our lives are shaped by transformation. Our childhood is marked by wonder. We discover, we explore, we absorb what we see. Our youth is marked by a burning quest for what is our identity? What is our belonging here? And what is the truth in the world? In adulthood, it begs for us to become responsible individuals. We build families. We create our professions. We help to build communities, often through sacrifice. And in our later years, it brings about reflection, wisdom, the chance to mentor others. Abdu'l-Baha, whose name means the servant of the glory, was the eldest son of Baha'u'llah. He too was exiled with Baha'u'llah and his family at a very tender age, and he spent 40 years of his life in imprisonment and exile. After his freedom, finally, in Israel, he came to the United States, he came to Europe, different countries in Europe, all throughout different states of the US, and you can chart that online. We have many writings of Abdul Baha, also on Baha'i.org. And when you see it, you can see how he expounds on those principles that Baha'u'llah has helped to lay out for us. And he is the sole interpreter of Baha'u'llah's writings. There is no schism in the Baha'i faith. There are no sects. There are no divisions, because its purpose is unity. Abdul Baha reminds us that the world of humanity is like a garden, and the various races, tribes, and peoples are the flowers which constitute its adornment and decoration. Diversity is the source of beauty. But diversity is not only external. It exists within our own lives. Each stage is like a different flower in bloom, and all of these stages require change. Baha'u'llah, in a beautiful short book of pithy statements by the name of The Hidden Words, says, "O son of man, should prosperity befall thee, rejoice not, and should abasement come upon thee, grieve not, for both shall pass away and be no more." Everything passes. Joy and sorrow, triumph and trial, each is temporary, and each can refine us. The challenge is not to resist change with fear, but to embrace it with courage and faith. So as we walk through our lives, as we are all in this process of change, we must remember that beautiful principle of education. We should always be in a state of education, of searching, of understanding, of looking for solutions. So let's talk about how this can be an engine of growth, both for ourselves individually and as a community. Baha'u'llah wrote, "Regard man as a mine rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom." So every stage of our life calls for an education that is threefold: spiritual, intellectual, and practical. But it is not static. It must adapt as we grow, just as society needs to evolve. So in childhood, education helps to nurture curiosity and virtue. In youth, it should channel energy toward discovery and service. And in adulthood, it must strengthen responsibility while never losing sight of our higher purpose in life. And in later years, it must honor wisdom and create pathways for mentorship and guidance. Abdul Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, described three forms of education: material, human, and spiritual. And together, they shape not only how we survive, but how we serve. He states that education holds an important place in the new order of things, but it is of three kinds: material, human, and spiritual. Material education concerns itself with the progress and development of the body. Human education with civilization and progress, while spiritual education consists in acquiring divine perfections. So each child that is born in this physical world should be offered all three types of education to fully reach their capacities to grow, to thrive, and to give back to their communities in positive ways that allow for civilization to flourish. And so the world, like the individual, also moves through cycles. Families are shifting, communities are evolving, and entire civilizations are rising and declining as we speak. So consider some of the forces that are out there. There is technology. It connects us instantly across the globe, yet it can also isolate us if it is misused. We now are able to communicate instantly without moving more than our fingers across a keyboard or a phone. But we also bear witness to technology used for warfare, hate speech, and greed. In our environment, the ongoing changes provide not only challenges, but new ways of thinking, how our relationship with the world and this earth should be. We are seeing stable farming seasons now face unpredictable droughts or storms, families losing homes and having to relocate. And these forces are there in such dire and sudden ways that disrupt traditions, livelihoods, and health. And yet we find ourselves having to adapt to these changes, feeling helpless at times. In the arena of governance and economics, the systems we once thought were unshakable are now under strain, revealing both injustice and the possibility for reform. Political instability or corruption can undermine trust and confidence in age-old systems that have been carefully created for centuries. But this can also help to spark innovation, creating new industries and ways of thinking, and increased collaboration of efforts that cross all man-made borders in ways that we have never seen before. And when we look at culture and spirituality, we see societies blending, whether it be interracial marriages, migration of people, forced or voluntary, and we are seeing interfaith dialogue growing, people searching earnestly for meaning. These transformations can make us anxious since they open new challenges that we may feel we are unprepared for. When guided by selfishness and materialism, change can destroy. But when it is met with consultation, love, and a unified vision, it becomes the engine of progress. Baha'u'llah further declares, quote, "So powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth." So how do we align our personal changes within our hearts, within our bodies, with the vast transformations that we see in our communities and in our world? The answer is service. In every world dispensation, service has been seen as a means for our way of helping the world and helping ourselves, for progressing our souls, for cheering the hearts of others, for finding our true meaning in life. And in the Baha'i Faith, it is said that work done in the spirit of service is equated with worship of God. Abdu'l-Baha said, "Service to humanity is service to God." So let's break this down. How, when we serve our families, our communities, our world, how can we make a difference? One individual. How can that happen? Let's start with the family. In our families, we can either create those beautiful virtues of love and compassion among our members, of understanding the sense of justice, and of serving each other. In the Baha'i Faith, marriage is considered a fortress for well-being. When we feel safe and secure in our home, we can battle whatever comes our way from outside forces. Then we move to serving in our communities. When we do so, we see neighbors helping neighbors in very natural ways. Not just a hello wave in the morning, but a true coming together of souls earnestly interested in the well-being of each other and helping each other in times of hardship. Let's talk about service to the world. When we serve the world in a small or a big way, we can help to advance the causes of justice and peace. We become the force in the world that creates the change in a positive direction, that allows for new ways of thinking through our own endeavors. So even our own service, when we think about how we are currently serving the world, that also evolves over time. At one time, service may have meant teaching literacy in a village, and in many places, to this day, it still means that. But it may also mean now that we take this onto a larger scale. We start caring for the environment in greater means of collaboration between countries. We start mentoring youth, not just in our own communities, but using technology to do so in places where they may not have access to such educational means. And then harnessing that technology for the positive good of the world, to help push those beautiful ideas out into the world in places where these ideas have not been seen, tested, or heard. So tomorrow, it may mean something entirely different, and we have to be ready to meet those challenges. We can either prepare ourselves, or we can just find out when that change happens, how to meet those challenges. What remains constant is not the form of service, but the spirit in which we deliver that service. Baha'u'llah offers us this counsel. He says, be generous in prosperity and thankful in adversity. Be worthy of the trust of thy neighbor and look upon him with a bright and friendly face. How does religion help us to maintain that trust? One thing that all of us who have faith have enjoyed the benefit of has been the power of prayer. Prayer is a very powerful tool that connects us with our one Creator. Baha'u'llah has said, whoso reciteth in the privacy of his chamber the verses revealed by God, the scattering angels of the Almighty shall scatter abroad the fragrance of the words uttered by his mouth, and shall cause the heart of every righteous man to throb. Abdu'l-Baha, his son, added in these words of practical compassion, quote, if you are so angry, so depressed, and so sore that your spirit cannot find deliverance and peace, even in prayer, then quickly go and give some pleasure to someone lowly or sorrowful. We find often that in our darkest hours, that is our greatest opportunity for service. When we suffer, we discover our spiritual depths, and that awareness empowers us to uplift others. Change can make us fearful. We cling to the familiar. We try to resist the unknown. We dread loss. But the Baha'i teachings show us another way, to trust that change is powerful, is purposeful, can show us a path of growth, and can make us mindful that we are never alone in navigating it. Baha'u'llah tells us, let your vision be world-embracing rather than confined to your own self. When we expand our vision, our fear diminishes. Change is no longer a threat, but an invitation to align our hearts with the needs of the worlds. Friends, the one constant in life is change. But change itself is not the enemy. It's the means by which we grow individually and collectively. When change enters our personal lives, let us ask, how can I grow from this? When change sweeps across society, let us ask, how can I serve within this? And when these two streams meet, when our growth contributes to the world's needs, change becomes not a burden, but a blessing. So I end with these powerful words of Baha'u'llah. Be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age ye live in, and center your deliberations on its exigencies and requirements. This is our calling, to embrace change with courage, to transform it into service, and to let love guide every step. If we do so, then change, whether personal or global, will not divide or destroy us. It will become the very force through which we build a more unified just, and compassionate world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that great talk. We really enjoyed it. And now we have some time for Q&A, so everyone can put their questions in the chat and we'll have time to get those answered.
Someone asked, were the last words a quote? The quote itself was, "Be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age ye live in, and center your deliberations on its exigencies and requirements." The last portion was mine.
Okay, another question is, the talk mentioned that change is the one thing we can depend on. How does this dependability of change connect with our understanding of the constancy of God?
That's so beautiful. You know, God is an unknowable essence. We have no way, just like a table that is created by the person who has created it, the table cannot understand the human being who has created it. Although that table has been carved and lovingly sanded down and painted and stained, and in every way, shape, or form has been carefully crafted. No matter how much that table wants to understand its creator, it never will. But through the means of messengers of God, we have been able to understand a little bit of, in some palatable form for us, some way of understanding the love that our Creator has instilled into us and the love that He showers upon us every day. And so that, to me, that's like the constancy of God in our lives. We have been given an amazing gift of the ability to steer our lives in whatever direction we choose. And so, just like a person who is navigating a ship in the most difficult of waters and circumstances, we have our hands on that wheel and we are turning it in whatever way we can to direct that ship in the best way we know how. And we hope that God's loving arms are always there. We know this to be the fact. I can certainly feel it in my life, and I hope that you feel it in yours, that when we come to a difficult place to navigate, there are some times that we may need to let go of that wheel and let God take over. But there are many times that we can stay in control of that ship and help navigate it to calmer waters. So we may not have control over what we can face in the world, but we certainly have control over how we face it and in what spirit we face it. And we are assured of God's help through every stage.
Thank you. So there seems to be a lot of immunity to change. How can we foster change in our societies and social systems?
That's a great question. In many ways, right now, we don't even have to foster change. I think we are seeing it happening around us. I think what we all need to be aligned with is, are we going to fight the change back to where it was and try to put, it's like blowing up a balloon and then trying to squeeze that balloon into the small little plastic bag that we got it in? That balloon has already gone out into the world and it's rising. So how do we harness some of the energies that we may put forth that may not allow for that balloon to soar? And how do we come together to help each other understand how to navigate this in ways that all of us can share in the joy of seeing our societies change in positive ways. And so one of the things that the Baha'i Faith has done is with that, this call to action is made it upon ourselves to be those individuals that can effect change in the world, with certain guidance, of course. When we talk about children, if we see that the rug is pulled from under them, that educational opportunities are not being given, how can we collectively, as families, as neighbors, come together and pool our resources and make things happen in ways that we could never have imagined? And we see this happening now in the United States. When we see that entire communities are struggling, how can we find small ways of working together in our own communities to seek out those individuals who may need help? We can do it. We just need to see those individuals as members of our own family. When we do that and truly speak to those words, we can come together and realize each other's shared humanity. So yes, we may want to have things in the way that they were before. Everything around us is propelling us forward, whether we like it or not. And we should be there, hopefully, with positive, purposeful action, not with undermining anyone's discussion. Everyone's voice needs to be heard. We need to come together. So one of the things that we've done is we have gatherings in our home. We bring people of different backgrounds to our home. We share prayers in different languages from different faiths. We talk about different topics, about the world's issues. Perhaps there may be something new that has come up in our community that we need to chat about. And we have open dialogues where every voice is heard. That's a small thing that we as a family are doing. I know there are many people who are doing some beautiful, larger things, and these are different ways that we can positively effect change.
Thank you. Would you kindly develop how important it is for Baha'is to comply with government changes?
I think a very beautiful example is the example of the Baha'i community in Iran. It is such a shining example to the world on how a community so plagued with persecution in so many ways has maintained its resilience, its optimism, its courage, not just individually, but collectively, and has shared that courage with its fellow citizens in Iran and abroad. They are truly to be applauded. And I offer that you seek out the different ways that the Baha'i community in Iran has maintained its incredible resilience and positive to this day under such increasing persecution. They have maintained their abiding by the laws of the government. I'll give a small example of this. The government in Iran barred and still bars all members of the Baha'i community from institutions of higher education. So the children are not allowed education beyond high school. And even throughout the education of these children, they face intense persecution, physical abuse, verbal abuse, just for the sake of being Baha'i. And yet the Baha'i community, at the very beginning, around 1980, when Baha'i scholars and professors were told that they could no longer teach in the universities, and Baha'i children, including my family, were asked to leave the universities as students in their respective studies. What did the Baha'i community do? It's ingenious. These professors who were taught from some of the top institutions all over the world and chose to come back to their homeland to teach the students of this beautiful country of Iran, the blessed country of Iran, they decided to open their homes to these students and to teach them their what they knew with their courses. They were accredited to teach in the country of Iran, and they were going to continue teaching. And they did this despite being imprisoned, and the students would come despite also being imprisoned, computers confiscated, paperwork shredded, books used as in courts as showing that they were doing something that was illegal, because it is illegal to teach a Baha'i. However, that profound spiritual principle of education was so embedded in the Baha'i community that they could not stop this important aspect of propelling society forward. And what do we see now? We see master's programs. We see further now even more volunteer professors from all over the world who are volunteering their time to teach these students in now the accredited Baha'i Institute for Higher Education. And you can Google it, BIHE. So this is just one way that Baha'is, though they complied, they couldn't go to school, but they were going to make sure that their children were educated. And that has now persisted for decades.
Thank you. How do the Baha'i teachings distinguish between change that is progress versus change that may be regression or distraction?
I truly believe that every change that we see in the world is purposeful. In our own minds, in our own opinions, we may feel that something is ebbing and flowing in directions where we feel may not be useful. And yet, it's kind of like when we shake up, if a jar has some residue in it, we shake it up, we examine it, we look at it from every angle. We actually see aspects of that residue that we may not have seen before. We thought that the jar was completely clean. And yet when we shake it up, we get to see all the little debris and parts of it that we were not aware of. And when those come to the surface, that shake can make us uneasy. Oh my gosh, I've been drinking this water all this time and I had no idea that it had this debris in it. It makes us concerned. But yet, maybe that's not debris. Maybe these are aspects of something that we can see even more meaningful to purify that water even more, to realize each other's differences, to examine whether that is debris or is that really a new gem that has bubbled to the surface, that is begging for attention, that is requiring our care and our compassion. Because when we just leave the debris at the bottom, we may think that we're drinking purified water, but we don't realize all the things that may be affecting this water, not allowing it to be further purified. We want the most crystal waters to propel humanity forward. And if we need to, and because this is, how do you establish the kingdom of God on earth? As Christ so beautifully stated in the Lord's Prayer without making sure that every need and every voice is heard. You cannot, it would not be a just kingdom. So we must allow for all these changes that we may think are ebbing and flowing in one direction or another. We must allow for everyone to have a voice. And we will see that this change is actually something very much needed in the world. In order to create a building that is strong, we need to tear down the edifices of the building that has been there for thousands of years. We have to demolish it in order to build something that is even more grand, that uses more resources, that spans all of the world. We cannot just patch up a building that has been there for centuries.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I wish I were related to the daughter of the late Sabet, who is the caretaker of the Mother Temple of Africa.
How do Baha'i communities attract interest?
So, as I said, the Baha'i faith has no clergy. So it is up to every individual to seek out the truth for themselves. And just like a gift, when we receive a gift, we share that gift with others. We share the enthusiasm of having received that gift with others. When we go to a movie that we love, we come back and we rave about the movie. We write all over the internet about it. I'm telling everybody that I want you to go see that movie. It has this great person in it who's starring. In the same way, Baha'is are encouraged to share the joy, the hope, the excitement of having a message that is truly world embracing. I feel so happy that I can share these beautiful principles with others, and I learn in the process. I learn how very closely connected we are as a human family, how the foundation of all world religions is cemented in the love of God and the love that we should share with each other. And yet, how there is a progressive unfoldment of God's message. So that beautiful principle of equality of women and men is now established. Perhaps it may not be established in every corner of the world, but we are assured that it will be established in every corner of the world. We know that education will be universal for every single child. And whether we decide how to go about this on our own accord and try to cement the hearts of people together to share in that united purpose or not, it will happen. So, that kingdom of God will happen. We have a blueprint that we share with the world. And whether we do so through unimaginable horrors or whether we do so through consultation, we will see humanity propelled forward.
Thank you. So I think that's all of our questions. So thank you so much again, Dr. Sabet, for your talk and for answering our questions. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Our speaker next week will be Mr. Alan Smith, and his topic will be The Earth is One Country and Mankind its Citizens. These talks are every Saturday at noon Eastern time, and I've put the link to our YouTube channel on our mailing list, so you can subscribe for free to watch all of our videos afterwards. Thank you, everyone. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.